Mm. It has been a while since we have gotten to come through in a full capacity as we are with you right now. And we are extremely excited to be here, extremely excited to be doing this with all of you in all of this sense of, yes, you, Megan, our dear friend, and yet all the listeners that are going to join us and hopefully find something that resonates within what we have to say to the questions that you may have. So, of course, welcome back to the Divine Ethereal Podcast is the divine name that we actually did give this one through a friend. She did not know that necessarily. It came from us, Zahara. So we are excited to be answering any questions that you do have, as we did bring through and mention with this one earlier when we were having slight chats, is the fact that this will be of all different levels. We do not wish to say that there is per se levels in your world, because it makes many of you think that there is aspects of betterment, and yet betterment in so many of your vocabulary is not exactly the most helpful word. So in ways we will say understanding to the limitations of your physical 3D and through the belief systems that you all have. How about that? That sounds better, does it not? Mm.
I like that.
Yes, we do too. Yeah. Mm. So you may ask us your first question, dear one.
Okay. So I had a list of questions prepared, but I actually want to start with something kind of simple.
Yes.
I have had a few people ask me about guides lately.
Yes.
Dana
Something
uses
specific.
the term team. So what the question was, how is the best way to connect to your guides if you do not already have that connection with them?
Well, for one, your connection has always been there. It is just since when you've all been children, your connections have changed as your development of the mind, of the physical world started to take over. And so in which, of course, all of your beliefs are very different in the factor of how your connection works and what is real necessarily to what am I making up in the mind is where many of you start to second guess self. And so in which your connection has always been there, your guides or angels or team or whatever term you wish to use. And yes, we do speak of the beings and energy and soul aspects that have been with you since day one that you've come into your world. Many of you refer to only past loved ones from this lifetime as a part of team and guides, and that is just not true for the factor that they were long here before you ever necessarily had. Lost them in the sense of human, and so in which you've always had this guides or energy or angels. Some very particularly like the word angel because it makes them feel at peace. And so in which we would say whatever term you wish to say, whatever makes you feel good is what we would say you would call them by. And you do not individually necessarily, not all of you will know every individual energy or being that is with you, but it does not matter. It is more of the matter in the fact that you start to understand that even as human, you are not separate. Mm. Your illusion of separation on this planet is for your higher learning of soul being, but you are not actually separate from anything, including your own guides. And so, in which to answer the question of connection, it is all within one's mind. You see, there is nothing that you need to do outside of yourself to connect into the field of source itself, in which, of course, where your guides also are connected into. And so, in which it is the vastness of the unknown. And so many of you are so scared of the unknown that many of you shut off the tap long before you ever actually feel the connection in your physical body to the degree that you might be looking for. So we would tell you to start within the mind, to start understanding where your fear lies, for in which your fear is only there to teach you and tell you what exactly might be in your way. Fear is a sensation of emotion that is trapped within your physical body that literally, in certain ways, energetically puts up a wall to the things that you are unsure of. And many are unsure of the things that they cannot see in the physical world, see, feel, or touch with the five senses of your physical body. But you all forget you have five more senses, which is through the energetics. That is where we would say, again, ask yourself where your fear lies when it comes to connection to guides. And once you start to understand yourself in that aspect, you will then start to We would not say obliterate the entire wall at one time because it is very hard to do for many of you. But what will happen is that you start pushing it and crumbling it on the edges, we'd say, enough to maybe start actually feeling things a little differently in your field. And of course, meditation is always very important for you to get out of the physical world, reconnect on an energetic level, and then bring that back as a feeling into the physical body, which will also allow you to start crumbling that wall a bit more. Does that make enough sense in a way that is practical?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So if someone wants to start connecting with their guides, it's all in your mind. And one of the best ways then is through meditation.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Many of you may say meditation is hard for you to do. It is likely because you have an overactive talkative mind and that you are used to hearing chatter constantly. Silence scares most of you because it brings up emotions and feelings that need to be felt. But in those aspects and spaces is where your guides can help you to understand they are not just here as beings to watch over you. They can help you in ways, if you ask, to make it more gentle of an experience when it comes to feeling some of the emotions that might need to be moved before these connections can be more solid in your physical conscious mind every day.
Makes sense. So to move on, what are some common signs or symbols for people to watch out for? And how do we pick up on what they mean? Do we come up with our own meaning and assign that so that our guides know and understand what we are asking for? Or is there kind of a quote unquote universal language through these signs and symbols?
We cannot say that there is universal language between signs and symbols of your physical world for every individual because that is your own experience. But we can say that there is universal language through all, including yourselves, even though you might feel as though you are only human. Of course, you are not. You're a spiritual being having a human experience, meaning your first language is energy. And so, in which, if you see signs and symbols, for example, we know many of you see lots of numbers, whether they're reoccurring, they could be your ones, 111, 222, 333, or they could be 1, 2, 3, 4, different sequences of numbers that you can see repeating. Now, many of you understand that you can, of course, use your platform of Google. We love that word, Google. It's a fun one to say. But you can use this platform to intuitively input to that number and ask what that many refer to as angel numbers, or intuitively, what is the meaning of this number? And of course, your team is going to help bring forward the meaning that they are trying to get across to you. So, of course, that's why we say universal language of energy is universal, yes. But when it comes to interpretation, that is for all of you as an individual to understand for self. What resonates is your truth. What resonates is your truth. And for resonating with a certain meaning, when you look something up, or if somebody says something to you, or this is what that might mean for me, and if it resonates, that is great. And if not, that is also okay. Stop looking for meaning in all things, though. Many of you
Mhm.
want to make meaning of every symbol, sign, thing you see, and sometimes it's just a validation for your conscious mind to understand you are exactly where you are meant to be. So many want to believe that there's got to be meaning behind this, there's got to be something to this. That is the story your egotistical minds like to make up, to try and decipher, to make sense of your physical realities. And so, in which we would say, if you want to know and understand what a sign or symbol means to you, you find what resonates. If it is a meaning or words that resonate, great. If it is an emotion that resonates, or a memory that comes up in that exact moment, or a sensation or feeling in the body, that is what we ask you to pay attention to. But you need self awareness to do so. So many of you live outside of your own brains. You are in zombie mode. You run too fast. You are in constant, busy, constant physical motion. Eat, sleep, get up and do it all over the next day. There is no presence. There is no stillness. And you need all of this if you wish to truly understand what signs, symbols, things that might be showing up on your daily either mean for you or simply just to even catch the validation of the magic that many of you describe exists within your world. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I find too, just an extra comment, when we don't take that time to be present, we also can't allow some of that information to integrate into our system.
Yes, and again, just dependent where you are on your journey. Sometimes presence is needed for integration, but sometimes presence is just needed for an aspect for your physical body to reset and have a balance again. So many think that, yes, there is much going on your planet right now. We understand, we know, we see, we watch, we are a part of it for where we can be. We also understand your physical 3D bodies are the densest that there is in existence in this universe. And so, in which we do know there is integration that needs to happen for the physical bodies, but just as much of that needs to happen in the mind. And if stillness is there, it is allowing that integration to go more gently than necessarily if you are trying to constantly run past it or through it and just move on to get to the next thing. So, presence is just as important for the physical part of yourself as much as it is to fully understand at certain points in time things that may be very well coming through in those signs and symbols. Yes.
Mhm.
Just like your deja vu.
Okay, can we talk about deja vu? Can you explain in a kind of simple manner? We know, I believe what most people would understand is that deja vu is almost like, I feel like I've been here before. I feel like I've experienced this before, whether it's this lifetime, different lifetime, timelines. Can you give us a little bit better explanation on what deja vu is?
Well, your terms of deja vu are, again, dependent on how you understand your reality. But for most of you, what you did explain would likely be how one might explain the feeling or notion of it when it shows up in the physical timeline that you are in. But it's just already happening is the fact that you have already experienced this in other timelines. And it is also a way for many of you that is a validation of exactly where you are trying to get to or where you have been in the process of moving towards certain visions or goals that you might have within this lifetime. And yet, it's a reminder as well to enjoy the process of getting there. So, your deja vu sensations, depending on, again, your own individualistic understanding of your reality, your sensation of understanding deja vu will also be very different because you understand the frequency of what it actually is. These frequencies are intermingling on a constant basis depending on how close of a timeline you might be in or what you're moving closer and closer towards. The best way for us to describe it is somewhat like a magnet in your world where you have the metal ball, almost like your ping pong machines, the old school ones where you used to have the left and right levers and you would smack the metal ball up through. But in this
Pinball?
sensation pinball, thank you, pinball, yes, but instead of it being so chaotic, it might look chaotic if one, in a human sense, were to simply look at the frequency that's happening around deja vu. But what is actually happening, it is more like a very strong magnet. Depending on how aligned you are within that frequency, the magnet starts to pull you into the sensations of it's already happened. And in a sense, many of you might describe, oh, that's very much like what one might call manifestation, but it is a little bit in an opposite effect. You have already experienced it through dream states, through unconscious alignment as you are moving in that direction. And so when you get closer to that timeline and you actually experience it, let's say in what may feel like that linear form of where you are right now, is what gives you the sensation of, I've been here already. And yet it's all in existence already at once. It is just you have finally found the right resonation of frequency to make it feel as though it's actually happening now in the physical reality you perceive as linear. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit. Um, kind of back to the guides a little. How will I know if spirit is talking or is guiding me? How will I know if spirit is talking to me or if I'm just making this up? Because sometimes when people are reading cards or reading whatever divination tool, sometimes they feel that they are literally making it up. So how can
Well, we
we
would like to counter
know
you
the
on that.
difference?
It's not even just when people are doing divination tools or readings. You all do this to yourselves on a daily basis. You all think of what is the best analogy? The best analogy we can likely give you between the difference between egotistical thinking and spirit or a higher sense of self or that frequency of higher level, one might want to call it, of authentic the authentic frequency of self or higher self is what we will refer it to because that is exactly what it is. It is not necessarily coming from outside of you often when you feel the tugs or pulls, even though, yes, you've got beings and teams, but they are also an aspect of you in certain ways and energy frequencies. So you can think of it as we'll use the word spirit, but it's a whisper. It is like the gentle breeze in the trees that you can hear the leaves rustling, but you cannot see it and you can feel it on your skin when it blows by very gently. But if you were perhaps in a very different hyper focused state of thought, you would absolutely miss that breeze. You would absolutely miss the fact that it's right there in front of you. It is very gentle and it's very often clear. It is a small, easy breeze and a very gentle voice in a way, if you wish to think of it, whether it's showing up as images, voice, whatever. As we all know, there is much that your body can interpret it as, but it's gentle and it's easy and it is very clear in a certain aspect. When it is your egotistical mind or fear from comfort or unsureness about your beliefs within self, it is very loud. Your fear will scream. Your aspect of self where it is unsure will be the loudest thing in your head. And it is very confusing and it's often very overwhelming in for your body as well. And it can also make one feel what we would describe almost more anxious is how it might show up in certain people and
Mhm.
confused or frustrated. And that is your automatic understanding that that is not coming from what it is that you call as spirit. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so another question that I get asked a lot is how do I know what my calling is? How do I know what my life purpose is? What am I here to do? How do I find that out?
You follow your excitement. It is very simple, and yet
It
so many
is.
of you wish to make it so complicated. The complication comes from what you believe is possible, what your society and your world has told you what success is, what you have been taught to do in your schools, and all the things that have been impressed upon you since you were children. And yet, if you truly want to know what you are here to be and doing, we can give you all, every single human being on this planet right here and now is here to learn, here to expand, here to grow. Within self, of course. But many of you are also here to do other things in helping each other and helping your planet and helping your ascension process of exactly where you are as human, but also bringing that to the next level. And yet, so many of you refuse to think that what one might be excited by could ever be something you could do for a passion, a living, whatever it might come boiling down to. But you see, money is a frequency that follows passion and excitement. And yet, so many of you chase it and you end up miserable. So, if you really want to know what you are here to do and you're passionate about, you follow what excites you. And so many of you think that needs to be jumping up and down excitement, and it's just not a lot of the time. If you don't know what you're excited by, we would say, look at what you don't prefer. Many of you all know what you don't like in this world or in your life. And so, in which you pursue the opposite then. What is it that you enjoy doing? What gives you a slight bit of joy or makes you feel at peace? Because those are all things that are linked to excitement. And your excitement will change on a constant basis the more you follow it, because it will lead you to larger things and larger adventures or larger opportunities that align with exactly what you want to learn as a soul being here. So if you want to know, you follow your excitement, even if it's just a little bit. That is enough for your soul to say, it's a gumdrop, pick it up. But you still need to make that choice. You have free will. We can show you all the colorful things on the ground and show you what's exciting for you, but we cannot make you do it. You
Yeah.
have to choose.
Can I also add to that personal story? I did choose to follow what I am more passionate about, and it has completely changed my life. I am even happier than I was before. I've tried to be a fairly positive person in my life, and following my passion and finding the things that truly matter to me has just made life a lot easier. And yes, as you continue to follow down the path, even though you may not know where you're going, your
You will
guides
never
always
know where you're going
know.
because it
You
is
don't
not for
need
you to
to.
figure out.
Mhm.
But so many of you do not trust the unknown.
And I believe it was in one of my sessions with Dana. We kind of talked about, it would be similar. Think of it like a video game. When you were younger, if you played video games at all, and you kind of get to the edge of the world and you don't really know what's past that. And that's what your guides are there to do, is they're there to show you the next little bit of that map.
Only if you ask. You have to
You have
ask.
to ask.
Because here's the thing. We'll take your analogy of the cliff. It is a good one. So many of you get up there and still try to figure it all out yourself. And you put so much pressure upon figuring it all out, you forget that you are not here to do this alone. And so, of course, most of you will return to what you have known in a comfort zone, even if you are miserable, because you did not understand there is an easier way of asking. There's an easier way of seeing. But that is also part of your learning here. To understand the illusion of separation does not actually exist. But until you ask for help, you cannot actually experiment with that until you actually give it a try and ask for some help. But the thing is, your guides can show you your next step, they can show you what might be there, but they cannot make you take the action. That is still coming down to you and you alone. And so, in which, if you have to battle your fear to do so, you need to do that inner work for yourself. Your team can only do so much. They can create
Mhm.
space to help you, but they cannot make you do it. And that is the thing about your world in universal law of free will. It is an unbreakable law. No matter what being wishes to try and cross that line, it will have consequence of the action of even trying, in the aspect of all of our own experience of where we are as well. So many of you want an absolute blueprint. Tell me what to do. We can't tell you what to do. We can show you the opportunity, but you still need to decide. It is important for many of you to understand we will never be able to just walk you through this life. It's not what it's about. You are here for your own growth, your own learning. We can help you to degrees, but we cannot fully hold your hand and pull you across the line. It is something you need to do for yourself. Make sense?
Absolutely.
All right, then, shall we move on to another question?
We should. Um, okay. Where do we want to go next, Zahara? So I have a very interesting question.
Ask us the interesting question then.
Um, okay, I want to talk about the realms. So I know you and we have chatted about the realms before.
Hmm.
Um, so I want to go through a couple things. Uh, I don't know if there's an answer for this, but how many different realms are there?
way beyond your comprehension for us to even bother trying to give you a number. Would be impossible. You
Okay.
can think of infinity. It
Yes.
exists on your planet in timelines. Think of that as the same way it runs through all the realms.
Okay.
It is different aspects depending on where you are and what is going on as the universe continues to evolve and change, but it is an infinite amount of realms.
Okay. So each of these realms has a different being attached to it. Is that correct?
Yes and no. It is
Okay.
very hard for us to explain to you that would make sense in your human mind of 3D because your brains all interpret in the linear type physical way, which is, of course, not any of your fault. It is part of your experience and why you are here to understand yourself as an individualistic part of soul and source at the same time. But for us to try and explain in a way that would make sense for you, it would be very hard. There are certain realms, of course, that are more one or two types of energies that may exist there. Now, these beings, there's many beings that don't actually have any kind of physicality to them. There are even us, some of us in this group that do not have any kind of physical sense to us. We are simply in your form and your words, straight energy, and
Yeah.
in a sense. So you can think of it as this place where it could have many different beings, some that can actually come into more of a physical form, some that are just purely energy, some that are materialistic in a certain way, in a certain type of matter, but it does not exist on your planet. So once again, it is very hard for us to try and describe what actually exists within these realms. Again, it's also infinite. So anything your brain could ever possibly dream up, we can almost guarantee you does exist to some sort of degree, but the way your brain is interpreting it or showing it to you may not be what the exact form is. Your brain is there trying to make sense of it in your physical 3D realm. Does that make sense to you?
Okay. Yes. Yes. Because I actually wrote out a list of different beings, uh, fairies, vampires, dragons, Medusa, gnomes, werewolves, unicorns, centaurs, mermaids, Pegasus, birds, Hydra, harpy, nymph, siren, etc.
Yes. Many of your fantasy books that exist on your planet, yes, have
Yes.
many of different creatures, different sensations, different things. And we can tell you that they do all exist to certain forms of energy, but we would not say that they would all be exactly to the images or descriptions of what they should look like that's been described. But again, if you think about how many different realms there is existence to each of those things in certain degrees, but again, probably not so much into the physical form that's often described in your fantasy books, because it is again your way of putting into a sense that makes the human part of you feel connected to something else in that aspect. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, they're more energetic based beings as opposed to a physical being.
Yes, and at times they could be a bit more physical, just depending on what realm you decide to go and look at.
Yeah. Whether it's us choosing to go up to that dimension and they come down to like meet at a certain dimension.
Yes, and often they would portray themselves to look something to what you would be assuming they would look like. So let's take, for example, the 12 archangels. Many people are very familiar with that term, or if not at all, the actual 12 archangels themselves, interaction, whether you've had that or not, does not matter. But the fact that you all have an understanding of angels, and it's like this human being with wings, often is how it's portrayed, and yet at the same time, that's not actually what your 12 archangels are. They are complete pure light. They have no actual form. But when many have an interaction with them, they often portray themselves to make you feel better in being able to see something rather than an interaction with a pure light. It can be very uncomfortable for many people to be in a human form and have an interaction with something so pure of energy because they have a hard time conceptualizing that as a physical 3D of part of who you are, if that makes sense.
Mhm. So this brings me to my next question, um, kind of two-part. So 3 actually. So I'm just curious of the best way to be respectful of the different realms. And do some of these beings want to connect with us? And if so, how can we connect with them?
If the beings want to connect with you, they will show up at your door. Best way to do that is a meditation. Gets you out of your physical 3D world, pulls you back up into the energetic sense of self, and allows you to be in a space. We would suggest that you don't go searching for a lot of these beings because if they do not want to be a part of your world or have interaction, they will not want to be found. And if you go showing up at their door, we cannot guarantee what kind of reaction you may have. Many of you believe that your duality on your earth is the most intense duality, and that is true. You have a 50-50 duality on earth, but at the same point in time, some of these dimensions and realms and all of these different existence and timelines are all connected to your earth as well. So you may have different dimensions and realms that have certain energetic beings or knowledge or sensations from, other timelines with other things happening, and they may not want you there. There are many of beings that are still in their own integration on your earth as well through their own realms, and it is a lot for them to be transitioning and keeping up with everything in their own space. And sometimes they just do not wish to be bothered in a factor of just because we do not like to say it, but your duality on your earth often has created people to be very just for me, for my learning, for my knowledge, and not so much of the give and take aspect of things. And so if you give, you're more likely to receive, meaning if you come with an open heart and love and wanting to connect and being allowing, we would say, the highest frequency beings and ones that have the best intentions for humanity being allowed to come and visit you, then that is very much an open door that if they wish, they will come. If they do not want to be a part of it, you are giving the respect of not going searching. There
Mhm.
are many times where we understand you get excited when you start to remember more of what might be here, remember more of your own soul experiences, and you want to experience that again in human form. But we wish for you to all remember that is not often the most important piece for you and your experience here. You are here in experience. We promise you will remember everything when you return home as a full energetic being yourself. It is not always important to have these connections as what some might think. It's more your curiosity of being human and wanting to explore in that aspect. And there's nothing wrong with it, but we would just ask that if you wish to be respectful about it, you simply just put an open door invitation in your field instead. And you make it intentional in a way that you are doing to connect in a loving and grateful way rather than feeling you need to take the information that you get or needing information for your own ego mind that may be trying to settle questions. If that is the case, we can almost guarantee you will never have anybody show up. They do not like to play in that type of frequency of the duality that often exists here. So they will stay in their own little hidden space until you are in a more balanced place and coming with respect so that they can show you the same kind of respect when they do show up.
I love that. Be open to it, but also be open to what they have to share with you, but also don't be expecting something out of that interaction
Yes.
if they choose to show up for you. Okay. Um, okay, so I want to talk a little bit about Akashic Records. Um, I personally like to read Akashic Records, and I did have a reading today with that, so it's top of mind for me. Um, my question is, can anyone access this
Yes.
information? Okay.
Yes. There is no separation. Your term Akashic Records is very human. It
Mm-hmm.
is not a separate place. It is an existence of all and all at once. It is a remembrance of soul. It is a remembrance of connection. And when one says they're accessing the Akashic records, you are not necessarily accessing anything other than the source itself and the library of existence. It is a way that you can see timelines in a factor and read energy that might be helpful for the person that might be sitting across from you or yourself. So eh, we do not really like the fact that so many say it is something you need to learn how to do because you don't learn it. You remember it. You remember how to access these things. Now, this likely has come back more from older times on your Earth, where your energy was more dense. It was not quite as easy to get into the states of being, of reaching that source information in that way and being able to sort through it because it was a lot more dense. It was a lot harder on the physical body. There was a lot more energy that you all had to put in as an individual to get yourself to those spaces for the collective where it was sitting. Today, it is very easy. Many of you are constantly reaching into information and accessing things and not even necessarily always realizing you're doing it because it is becoming so much easier for all of you because your collective consciousness is rising and it is ascending along with your earth. So you can think of it as the antenna has gotten larger and it's gotten easier to find and tap into. And that is your Akashic Records per se, your term. Some like to call it a big library of information, but you're
Mhm.
accessing the quantum realm, the quantum known. And yet you're just simply picking up frequencies and then putting it back into your physical language, whether that be English or whatever language you all speak. But it is just your simple way of now interpreting what has been given to you as a frequency that is either information or on something one needs to understand that could be helpful for the journey here. Does that make sense?
Mhm. So my next kind of piece of that is um what is the best type of information to access from the records?
That's not up to you. That will be up to your higher self.
Okay.
So you don't ever have to worry about accessing something that you maybe necessarily shouldn't know as being human. Your higher self is already your filter. And so, in which, if you have pure intention of wanting to help oneself or help another, that is exactly what will be always delivered. This is where some say that they work with certain beings of the Akashic Record. You're just working with masters of the universe. So they are not necessarily assigned one thing over another, but there are beings that help other beings and experiences to help understand connections that they might be having. And that this is one of them when you reach into the quantum realm, and so they help you and your higher self deliver that frequency to your physical piece of you that can be interpreted in the way it needs to be interpreted. So you must not worry that you can pick up anything you should not know because it will not happen. Your higher self will not allow it to happen.
Okay. So when we talk about the Akashic records here on Earth, it's a lot about, like you said, it's a certain place, it's a certain library that we all go to. So how, and you kind of explained it's not really a library. How will we know if we've come to the right place, if you will? Does
Because
this
there's no
place
place
look
you can't go. You will always
okay?
be in the right place. But the
So it's not
sensation
necessarily
will be different. It's different when you're accessing it for yourself, and it's different when you're accessing it for, let's say, someone that's come for a reading. The energy is different. And what we mean by that is that's why maybe some think that they are not coming to the same place, but you are. You are simply accessing the part of yourself that is already tuned in. But the difference comes in the factor that it might feel different if it's for someone else rather than for self.
that makes sense. So it's not necessarily, well, it's not a physical place. It's more just an energetic state.
Yes, exactly. There we go. Okay. So I had to go let my dog in. Zahara obviously was finished. So Megan and I just decided, okay, we're gonna make a little ending to go along with this because normally I always have an ending in here anyway. I just realized my computer is not charging. This is a good thing we are doing an ending right now because this bad boy is about to die. So it's good. Thank you guys for joining us on that. I know I let Zahara kind of just come in right off the get go, and that's kind of unusual because normally I do my little spiel, we get set up, and then we go. But it just felt on par to do it that way today. So thank you, Megan, for your questions and what you bring up because I know a lot of people have questions. I'm terrible sometimes because I just don't think about all these things anymore. So I appreciate it. And as
Yeah.
much as I don't remember what was said, I know you do probably for the most part. So
Not a lot, I'm not gonna lie.
it's all good. It's funny because I was telling Megan when we were getting started, Zara was literally saying there's a high chance Megan probably won't remember a lot of what we said anyway, but it's all okay because whoever's listening to this, you got whatever you're supposed to get out of it, and it's all good. And we're just here, making this as hopefully something that will happen a bit more every here and there because the questions are a lot of fun for me and I love channeling like that, and I think that having Zahara come through in that way is a bit different, but it also shows everybody, what channeling maybe is more like if you're not familiar with it. There's lots of really well-known channels. If you're not familiar with them, I'm going to list those in the description of this video and this podcast. So if you're curious, go check those guys out because they're amazing in their own right, but we're all different, which is the cool part. So whatever you resonate
Yeah.
with is what we ask that you take. What you don't resonate with, leave it. That's the most important part. Anything Zahara says, that is what it's about. It's not about the words, it's about how it made you feel. What did you get out of your truth? So appreciate having you here and look forward to doing another one with you at some time soon. And if you guys are
Absolutely.
looking for any information, it's always usually in the descriptions, links, podcast, anything going on with the podcast, any events, all that kind of stuff I have listed on my own links. And then, of course, I've still got the community running and all that information you can find. So thank you, Megs. And look forward to doing it again with you soon.
Absolutely, this is a blast.
Awesome.
It was definitely exciting, Dana. I'm gonna say that for
Good.
those who paid attention in the video.
Yeah, I can only imagine some of my facial expressions. My hair was tickling me a lot. I know that. I know I was jerking a bit more than normal.
Yep, yep.
Well,
I'm
there you go.
like,
If you're
what are
listening to
something
this on
bucket her?
Spotify, maybe you want to come check out the video. Come see how weird things get sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. It is a different experience, though. It is. So if you've only listened to the audio, it might be something you actually do want to come and see on video because it is a bit of a different experience.
Mhm.
Because I definitely again, it's not your typical thing. So I get that it might be weird for some people. You don't have to, but if it's like, hey, that kind of seems a little interesting, come check out the video on YouTube. Um, and yeah, and see what it makes you feel like when you actually watch the video, because it might bring up some very different things in you that way too. But thank you again all for joining, and we look forward to having you next time.